Aviate, navigate, communicate. Everyone who's learned to pilot a plane knows this axiom. It applies to normal flying conditions, and it's even more important in an emergency. It means first, fly the plane. Secondly, know where you are and where you're going. And third, talk to everyone concerned about where you are and where they are. I don't fly planes, but I've found this advice helpful in all kinds of circumstances, and especially in leading the city of Tucker. A city, like an airplane, is a complex piece of machinery. We have about 40 people working at City Hall every day, a cadre of contractors we use for specific jobs like maintaining the parks, improving roads and safety conditions, working in our courts. We have about 30 men and women appointed by the mayor to serve on our boards and commissions. And we have our elected officials who work diligently to set priorities, cast a vision, and make policy decisions about the city's future. We have flown far and fast in this last year, despite mountainous obstacles and strong headwinds. And I want to report to you the progress we've made, that is, the aviating we've done. I'll also give you a report on where we are and where we're heading, that is, the navigating we've done. And by the end, I hope I will have communicated what you need to know about our journey. So let's begin with our 3 core services. Our Parks and Recreation team stays busy with year-round programming and also with constant improvements to all of our locations and facilities. Of course, when COVID made its first appearance, many things had to be curtailed by health and safety considerations or by emergency orders, but they kept finding ways. From the beginning, they cleaned and sanitized playground equipment every day so our families could get outside for some safe recreation with their children. Our park trails and walkways remained open so Tuckerites could safely enjoy some fresh air and exercise. By May of last year, we had the tennis courts available at Henderson Park and what was then the Smoke Rise Bath and Racquet Club. And we opened the pools at Kofer and at Smoke Rise under modified conditions that worked so well, we're using much of them again this summer. We held modified summer camp programs in 4 parks, again to give some recreational opportunities to many families who needed an outlet. While we couldn't gather in normal conditions, Parks leadership organized countless contactless events like the Easter Bunny handing out eggs and candy, free Independence Day baskets, a Halloween drive-through, campfire and s'mores events, and properly distanced sip and strolls through our parks. We even kept up the Advent acts of service and had a socially distanced event with Santa Claus in a COVID-friendly North Pole. We reopened the rec center back in November for all the programs we could safely conduct, including contactless basketball. Our 10 and under basketball all-star team even won their district championship and competed in the state tournament. Meanwhile, we carried on with adult pickleball and golf leagues for all levels of skill and tournaments for each. Already this year, we've hosted our annual egg hunt with 5,000 eggs, a dive-in movie, and an adult field day with 100 enthusiastic participants. Especially exciting for me was to see a full-on youth baseball league in Tucker for the first time in 15 years. I literally stood with parents and grandparents of Tucker families seeing their kids and their grandkids play where they played, and the happy memories were palpable. I had one parent tell me that an active youth baseball league is the hallmark of a healthy community, and as a lifelong fan, I couldn't agree more. Our Parks and Rec folks also completed a tremendous amount of work improving our facilities. We finished a complete renovation of Peters Park that includes the biggest set of play equipment in the city, workout equipment for adults, and a great walking path that gives parents a full view of the play area. We added 2 restrooms at Henderson Park to make both the tennis courts and the community garden area more user-friendly for everyone. And we opened Tucker's first dog park this year, also at Henderson Park. And on top of their regular duties, the Rec Center also hosted 4 separate movie and TV productions in the last year, generating revenue and publicity for the Parks and Rec Department. Perhaps the most significant thing we did in our Parks Department since I last reported to you was to rename and dedicate the former Smoke Rise Bath and Racquet Club as Bill Rosenfeld Park. We lost Bill as a friend, a founding member of our city council, a neighbor, and a leading businessman back in January. And this is our way of ensuring that his memory and his example live on. The city's other core services are planning and zoning and code enforcement, where they have also flown straight ahead throughout the pandemic. These departments are charged with planning our land use, keeping up with building permits and inspections, and with updating our code whenever we find weaknesses or lack of clarity. The council passed 6 separate updates to our code this year, dealing with stormwater control, illegal discharge into our waterways, litter control, and urban camping, among other things, all led by our professional planning staff. We carefully and in cooperation with property owners began enforcing code to get rid of abandoned and rundown signage citywide. And we completed a rigorous audit of our compliance with the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District. In community development, this same department oversaw significant improvements to the Peters Park neighborhood, including gateway signage, street signage, landscaping rights-of-way, remediating dangerously dilapidated property, and installing an important new sidewalk on Elmdale to serve the area and to connect it to other parts of the city. Planning led the effort on properties to be abated, such as the junk car lot next to the railroad in downtown. It was the source of one of the most dangerous fires in our time as a city, and our actions there led to clearing that lot and returning it to a safe and useful purpose. The planning and enforcement departments also play a part in enforcing and collecting occupational tax certificates or business licenses, ensuring that those who do their part and pay their share don't also have to carry the burden for those who don't. Just before the pandemic, the planning department made a significant improvement to our public input process for all land use decisions. Even with the pandemic underway, this change significantly increased the number of citizens involved in making new development the best it can be for Tucker. And all during the pandemic, they advised and supported our Planning Commission, our Zoning Board of Appeals, our Downtown Development Authority, our Urban Redevelopment Authority, our Public Facilities Authority, and more, providing training, administrative support, and assisting in presentations to community and professional groups. In addition to these core services, we spend a lot of time as a city and a lot of effort on traffic and road safety improvements. With money Tucker receives from the extra penny and sales tax voters approved 4 years ago, we rebuilt and or repaved 16 more miles of the worst conditioned roads in Tucker last year. In addition to our repaving program, we also completed urgently needed traffic signal projects at Brockett, Coolidge, and US 78, and at Chamblee Tucker and Livesey Road in front of Livesey Elementary. At the new Smoke Rise Elementary School, we're installing an entirely new intersection with traffic lights, turn lanes, and more to safely and efficiently serve the school and other new development there. We also built an important new sidewalk the length of Cowan Road, linking Idlewood and Hugh Howell with a walkable connection. And perhaps the most visible recent work is the new sidewalk and streetscape project downtown. It includes all the new sidewalks you see along Lynburn, First Avenue, 2nd and 4th Streets. The streetscaping includes the decorative street lights, benches, trash cans, grassy areas, and all the things that will create a downtown that is much bigger than just Main Street. It will catalyze investment in our downtown and bring the kind of amenities we've all been looking for, like retail and restaurants, and even residential, into the downtown area. Tucker also operates a court system to settle disputes regarding our code and to enforce traffic safety laws in the city. In fact, we built out a whole new city hall, including a state-of-the-art court facility during the pandemic, and our staff there has worked hard to make sure those courts operate efficiently throughout the pandemic. All the work that I've mentioned so far leads toward the overarching purpose of a city, which is what we call community and economic development. Economic development is the culmination of everything we do. It results in the tangible, visible improvements to the community and to our quality of life. It's new employers, new businesses, new housing of all kinds, and all the things that cause people to want to come and stay in Tucker. It's what I mean when I talk about it being a place where a person can live, work, play, and pray for the length and breadth of their lives. It's the reason we fly the plane, and it's the destination for our flight. Our economic development successes in the last year include North Lake Mall, where Emory Healthcare is building out more than 250,000 square feet to house roughly 2,000 employees who will start moving in at the first of the year. You'll soon see the new CDC credit union, along with a mix of other retail, restaurant, and residential uses in the area. On the other side of town, Branch Properties is developing a new power center to be anchored by Publix, but also to include a variety of restaurants, financial services, and healthy lifestyle retailers and service providers. The stretch of Hugh Howell near Mountain Industrial that was for so many years an eyesore will soon emerge as a kind of organic mixed use, with a church, a school, light manufacturing and distribution, plus retail and restaurants. Our industrial citizens provided critical support to our economic health as a city and provided thousands of stable jobs during the pandemic. Many have been expanding, and some significant new corporations made Tucker their home during the pandemic. Sugar Bowl Bakery opened their East Coast headquarters with roughly 400 employees here. Briggs & Stratton opened an advanced batteries manufacturing facility that employs upwards of 80 people. Pontoon Brewery has plans to open a new manufacturing facility and tap room. Lindner USA, a leading maker of advanced architectural and design products, is expanding and relocating in Tucker. And Georgia Furniture Mart recently relocated its entire logistics operation here. We've also added 320,000 square feet of spec warehouse buildings, attracting the kind of businesses that make our economy strong. In all, we have had 402 new business licenses issued since last May's State of the City address. Meanwhile, there's a healthy mix of new residential construction around the city, and a lot of activity in renovation and renewal of existing properties. While we don't have a lot of green space for new residential development, investors are finding smaller spaces and opportunities for redevelopment. Right now, there are at least 315 townhomes, 235 multifamily units, and 239 single-family homes at various stages of development in Tucker. They are both rental and owner-occupied at a very wide range of price points, and they are in every corner of the city. So I hope you get a sense of what I mean when I say we've been flying far and fast. So let's turn to the navigating, that is, where we're headed. About 3 weeks ago, we passed the fiscal 2022 budget. In many ways, our budget reflects our priorities. While there are significant things we do that don't cost a lot of money, how we spend our taxpayers' money says a lot about what we think is most important. Since our new fiscal year begins on July 1st, here's what we're prioritizing. We are projecting about $27 million in total revenues for the coming year and about $29 million in spending. So how does that break down? In round numbers, it costs about $10 million a year to run the city. That's all our operational costs, from salaries to office space, all the maintenance, heat and air, parks and pools, and so on. The 2022 budget includes about $8.3 million for rebuilding and resurfacing roads. While DeKalb County is still responsible for filling potholes, filling broken catch basins, and so on, from taxes that you still pay to them, we're responsible for capital projects and improvements. This $8.3 million will pay for resurfacing another 15 miles of the worst conditioned streets in the city, making more than 62 total miles resurfaced since we began 3 years ago. It'll also fund 2 major projects this year on Chamblee-Tucker and Rosser roads to address safety and road conditions through resurfacing, restriping, safety signals, and remediating water and runoff issues. The new budget also includes $1.7 million for capital improvements in our parks. This $1.7 million will go to a major renovation at Fitzgerald Field to improve the fields, parking, and access. Major renovations at our pools and tennis courts, including lighting to extend their hours of usefulness each day. Significant improvements at the rec center, and an array of smaller projects like providing parking and playground equipment at Rosenfeld Park. We'll also spend about $1.8 million on trails and sidewalks to continue to improve connectivity between our neighborhoods and our parks, schools, the library, and commercial and shopping areas. I mentioned that we're planning to spend $2 million more than our revenues. That $2 million will come from our reserves, which I'll talk about in a minute. And of course, the highlights I've given you represent only the biggest items in the budget, which you can review in full online. The rest goes to a variety of other things, like our Convention and Visitors Bureau to support our restaurants and hotels and sports tournaments, the tree bank to help maintain our canopy, and the studies and analyses necessary for these major capital projects. Speaking of sound finances, as of the end of 2021 fiscal year, Tucker will have over $9 million in reserves, equivalent to almost 60% of what we call our general fund. It's basically our rainy day account, and we are in such excellent cash position for 2 reasons. One, we have been very prudent in these early years of our life as a city. Being uncertain as to what our revenue sources would produce, we've been very careful with our spending. And second, last year we were preparing the budget just at the time we realized how serious and long-lived the pandemic might be. So we forecast sharply reduced revenues. Happily, but not by accident, our revenues have well exceeded our forecasts, and especially so in the fiscal year about to end. But a large reserve is not the purpose of government. Our job is to deliver the services we are required and authorized to provide. And so, as we become more confident in our revenues and clearer on our costs of operating, we'll begin spending reserves down to the recommended level of 25 to 35% of our general fund. Assuming our forecasts are reasonably accurate this year, we'll likely have an additional $2 million next year to accelerate completion of even more projects. We also had some other extraordinary income last year in the form of the CARES Act. In September, Tucker received an allocation of about $4.1 million from the federal government. These funds were very tightly restricted, both as to what they could be spent on and when they had to be spent. From October through December of last year, we gave almost $3 million in grants to help small businesses respond to and survive the pandemic. We granted about $780,000 in direct aid to our citizens who needed help with mortgages and rent and utilities. And we did that with irreplaceable help from networks. We spent about $240,000 on a program to assist younger school-aged children with their studies. That was in partnership with Rehoboth Baptist and St. Andrew's Presbyterian churches. And the remainder went to reimburse the city for COVID-related expenses like our mask movement program, retrofitting facilities, keeping playgrounds and parks clean and open, and so on. But this wasn't just a giveaway. It was very targeted to those in particular need of financial help, but in the big picture, it was to support our own economy. The idea was to keep it as healthy as possible until the pandemic subsided and businesses and individuals could start getting back to normal. And combined with the rest of our COVID response, it worked better than we could have imagined. Relative to the rest of the state and the country, Tucker's economy not only survived, but in many ways it thrived and excelled. It's why we're flying at full speed right now instead of gassing up and filing flight plans. The city's revenues were actually greater during the year of COVID than they were in the year prior, a clear sign of economic health, especially of our business community. The result is that we have millions in unanticipated revenues to put back into the projects the community has identified as most important. That's where the extra $2 million in this year's budget comes from, and it's why we believe there'll be more in the next year or two. And finally, a word about our larger COVID response. As a city, we have a mission. Our mission is to deliver the services we're obligated and authorized to provide. When there's a mountain before us or the headwinds are strong, we don't land the plane and tie it down until skies are clear. Our job is to figure out how to keep flying and accomplish the mission anyway. And even when the obstacle was a worldwide pandemic, we didn't lock it down and ask ourselves, what's the least we can get away with? We asked ourselves, what can we do to keep pursuing our mission? And how much can we do without undue risk or damage to the public? If good sense or the law didn't prevent it, we talked about ways to make it happen. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Keep flying the plane. Know where you are and where you're going, and talk to everyone concerned. We worked hard and thought hard and planned hard about how to succeed even in the face of unprecedented challenges. And I'm extremely proud of our council and our staff for protecting not only the physical health of our citizens, but also their mental health and financial well-being. The pandemic was incredibly difficult, and many people suffered greatly. But where the results of this pandemic could have been widespread devastation that took years to recover from, Tucker is already prospering again. For that, I credit the devoted service of your elected and appointed and staff officials. But even more than that, I credit the spirit of the people of Tucker. That's why we've recognized the Citizen of the Month and a Business of the Month as long as we've been around. These are the people who are creating, innovating, giving of themselves, and moving all of us forward. They're the volunteers of the Friends of the Parks, the Tucker Business Association, the Tucker Civic Association, our homeowners associations in places like Montreal and Peters Park and Smoke Rise. They're the business owners who found ways to carry on and keep people employed. And they are the churches and faith-based organizations who take it upon themselves to care for those most in need in our community. It's been a tough year, but Tucker has been tougher. It's been a grueling year, but it's been a gratifying year to see our city rise above its many challenges. It was a year that called for empathy and patience, and Tucker showed its true colors. Not only did we have to deal with the pandemic, but we had serious tragedies that exposed lingering racism in parts of our country, even some close to home. When it came time to express themselves and advocate for change, Tucker did so peacefully, and many of us were proud to participate in public demonstrations with the diversity of our neighbors in the center of our community. There are lots of ongoing conversations about how we should treat and relate to each other, and together we're learning and creating a bright future for our hometown. I want to thank each of you who's played your part in that. As we come out of the clouds after 15 months of public restrictions and personal restraint, we can already see the view of swimming pools operating at full capacity, kids returning to summer camp, and a clear runway to gatherings and activities on Main Street. We'll host our Independence Day celebration and fireworks show on July 3rd. We'll host Tucker Day on Labor Day weekend, and much more, when we can enjoy each other's company and celebrate the strength of being united again. In the long arc of history, our country has overcome many worse times than even COVID-19, and we have not only survived, we have flourished. Because we live under the greatest system of government ever devised. We have the means, and we have found the ways to heal our own wounds and shore up our shortcomings to fly ever higher together. I look forward to continuing the progress toward a more perfect union in the work ahead. Thank you for your patience, your resilience, and your faith in Tucker. And thank you for trusting me to serve as your mayor. I look forward to seeing you all on Main Street very, very soon.